Fantastic to be here in Prague physically, first time since COVID started, and to actually see some live audience. So my name is Ville Meloni. I come from the city of Helsinki, and I put this presentation together with my colleague, Helsinki Design System product owner Laura Karhu. And I'll be discussing about design systems, how they relate to data. But before that, I'll give you some background of city of Helsinki, our approach to digitalization and data, and then try to wrap it up. So this is not about self-promotion, but it's more like a disclaimer why I show you this slide. Because today I'll be discussing about design systems and tomorrow about AI, artificial intelligence. But basically I'm neither a data scientist nor a designer, but more like a generalist trying to help to drive the change in terms of digitalization. So my current role in the city of Helsinki is actually helping employees to experiment with technologies such as AI to improve city services and processes. And what I've done in the past couple of years, I've driven customer-centric culture as part of our digitalization program to adopt common tools such as design systems. And prior to that, I worked to create our Helsinki region open data service. So a little bit about the background. City of Helsinki, it's the largest city in Finland, currently 650,000 people. So it's still quite small compared to many Central European cities, but growing quite rapidly. And what we do is we have a lot of responsibilities as a Finnish municipality. So we provide hundreds of services to our citizens, ranging from social and healthcare to education, urban environment, culture and leisure, and city administration. And we are also the largest employer in Finland, having over 38,000 people. So you can imagine in terms of designing citizen-centric services and digitalization, it's a lot of work also ahead. So, role of digitalization within our city. Few main points. We strive to be a functional and sustainably growing city. So, like any other organization, we need to achieve this goal. We need to make the best use of digital technologies. So on the right-hand side, you can see that we have a digitalization agenda, and it has 6 strategic objectives of what we aim to do. And they relate to being able to provide more and more proactive and personalized services to citizens, and also having the citizens to say how their data is being used. So we try really hard to implement in practice this kind of my data principle with other cities. And also a lot of to do with how we can automate processes and how we can actually enable to data to create services together with the whole ecosystem in collaboration with others. So I would say understanding of customer needs, the usage of service design, like with many previous speakers here, for example, following the government digital services example, that's what we are also trying to implement. And here, in addition to service design, data, software, robotics, AI are some of the new technologies that we really try to understand how they work in practice. And we operate based on openness and transparency. And I think, again, what previous speakers have said, this creates trust. And I would say it reduces friction in collaborating with others. So what we do, we want to be open about, we want to publish open data and also open source. A bit about data. Good discussions yesterday already with some of the colleagues here from other cities. The meaning of data. Data itself doesn't do much. And we've been working many years in trying to put data into action. But only last year, we created this data strategy. It took about a year, and it's basically outlines how we approach data. And the idea is that data is basically utilized to create a city that proactively responds to residents' service needs on their terms. It helps data-driven decision-making. And increasingly also, we want to increase efficiencies, save money. So data should actually help us to optimize our operations and resources. And also, of course, then we try to share data and hope it drives business and the utilization of external resources in the ecosystem. If you're interested, our data strategy is online, our digitalization website. So, but then it's not just about data, it's also providing support for creating digital services. So for this, we have created playbooks and tools for creating a better digital customer experiences and journeys. We invested in this. And we also are trying out these cross-functional support teams for creators of digital services. So they can approach us, we have a team, then try to help them with technical stuff, with user-centric stuff, data stuff, and others, so they can create the best services possible. And also tools such as a design system, which I will talk now more about. So before I go into design systems, I would like to try out a little bit audience participation with the local audience here. So can you raise your hand if you are familiar with the concept of a design system? Few hands there. Yeah, a couple of hands. Maybe 5. Okay, good. Is there anybody here who is actually from an organization that is using a design system for creating digital services? Any hands? All right, okay. This is an often used metaphor. So design system, if you will, it's kind of a common way of doing things. You can think of it as a Lego kit. So it basically has blocks that can be reused, but it also includes the blocks and the guidelines how to build the model, like in this picture, US city, model of a city. And it still enables you to build something completely different from the same pieces. So that's the basic concept. So Helsinki Design System, it's a tool that aims for better and more consistent user experience for all users across our digital services. And we create a lot of our digital services ourselves. Of course, we also buy existing IT systems and such, but we actually need to invest quite a lot in creating new services. So what this does, it tries to ensure a more coherent, systematic user experience in terms of digital services fronts, and also increase efficiencies of creating digital services, so you don't always need to think that, where do I put this green button, or is it the red button, and how does this form work? Because you have the building blocks and instructions of how to build the service. And the design system has basically 4 sections. It has a design library. So it's, for example, ready symbols and examples for designers using Sketch. Then it has a documentation and guidelines, and then so-called design tokens, colors, typographies, etc. And then also for software developers, it actually has accessibility audited implementation components, currently in React and HTML plus CSS. And all this is aligned with our visual and brand guidelines. And this is fully open source if you're interested. hds.hel.fi, and it's in English. So if you're interested in building or understanding design systems, you can visit that site. And different projects can use this design system in different ways. Some could use the whole design system. Some could just take some design library elements from there and use some design tokens. So it's quite flexible. And that's currently how we use it. I also want to emphasize that since we are talking about design accessibility, when we create these design systems on an atomic level, it's crucial that they are actually accessibly audited. So we have a specialized team. Every week when the design system team works on new components, there's accessibility experts that we have from specialist companies, from the research phase to the documentation phase. They are on board trying to make everything accessible, for example, so that the elements work like with screen readers and so on. Another aspect is that even though we have a team, a dedicated team of creating this, developing and maintaining this design system, it's also a collaborative project. So basically, if a project working on a new digital service, they look at the design system and they say, I don't necessarily have the components I need just for my project. They could then suggest that we upgrade some components, or they could create a component that they use anyway in their digital service and then contribute it to our design system, so that then would be available for everybody using the design system. So it's also a collaborative effort. Here's some service examples using Helsinki Design System. On the left-hand side, you can see we have this website for youth people in Helsinki, combining all the important things in one place. And for there, the design system has been used on the design element and documentation level, but not using the actual software components. And on the right-hand side, we have a site called Linked Events. It's basically, you can find all the hobbies and events in Helsinki from a database. And then this site combines all that. So you can search for events in Helsinki that you're interested in. And there also those software developer components have been used. So a couple of concrete examples of design systems in action if you want to have a look. So since we are in a data congress, so what does a design system have to do with data? This I discussed with our product owner, Laura. And I found out that we are actually working on relations with design system and data. So I give you some very concrete examples here in the progress of making. So as we know, digital products are more and more often based on data. So you have a digital service. How do you collect the data from the users so that it makes sense? This impacts data quality. How do users understand the meaning of data when you present it to them? And in some cases, Excel is a great tool, but sometimes you might need this kind of admin tools to actually administrate the data. So that's something that we also need to take into account in our design system. So design systems can provide tools and components for all these aspects, basically common ways to handle data. Here's some examples. Really, the users need to understand what kind of input is expected from them, with clear descriptions and examples. And then the data needs to be formatted in consistent ways. So the user doesn't need to guess the format, but is guided into correct direction. And it's also possible to combine different validation methods. So here's some examples. We all have run into these examples many times. You have a form in a web or digital service. You need to enter a phone number. If you're actually not entirely sure what the phone number, what kind of format it needs to be in, it might take you time and confusion. So it's good that you have a design system that then takes care of the fact that if the user enters the phone number in an incorrect way, it will actually indicate very clearly what is the right format, like in this case, an international mobile number format. So all the data then is gathered in that correct format. Sounds mundane and trivial probably, but when you are building design systems, you want to make sure that you have guidelines for these kind of things. Same applies actually for files. When users are asked to upload files, that they are in the correct format. And you could also consider the kind of data or metadata that you need to get from end users. And here's the example with a parking permit. So if you are building a service for permits, for example, then you can clearly indicate whether the parking period is continuous or temporary with radio buttons and the permit end date. Again, you make sure you get the data captured in a systematic way. So some concrete examples from our design system. So modifying and displaying data, same thing. as mentioned. You want to make sure the users understand the data that they see. And also, because of accessibility laws, when you present data in a table, again, you need to make sure that you can use the screen readers and so on, so it technically works as planned. And then how you enable and simplify admin usage of the data. So we don't have all this yet in place, but our design system is working with these. And also future plans include other kinds of data visualizations as well, like infographics and dynamic visualizations and such. So again, very common examples of tables, you see a lot. But you need to think when you present data, whether, for example, you need these horizontal data, stripes or vertical columns, how you display the data, and so on. So we try for different use cases, create templates, guidelines, and components for the design system. And also here seen on the right-hand lower corner is kind of a interface for admin users of the data. So, as said, future plans also include data visualizations, bar charts, tree maps, pie charts. So currently we are investigating what kind of visualization needs there already are in the city and how to make it easier for digital service projects to create these visualizations. And same thing, working on guidelines for table planning. What kind of data overall should be presented in a table or in something else? It's not always a table, of course. And how to keep the tables as simple as possible. What is the order of the data, and so on. So here were some examples we are planning to implement into our design system. And just to wrap it up, as I presented, we have a digitalization plan or agenda that basically guides why we utilize digitalization. We have a data strategy that we follow, and then we have support and tools for creating digital services, and Helsinki Design System is part of that. So I hope this has been useful, given you some concrete examples. Please have a look at our design system. If you have any questions, you can contact me or my colleague Laura. So thank you very much.